My name's Esther Elias and I am the founder and director of the Effort Over Environment Foundation. I supported Chelsea all my life.
So I'm Denton. I'm a journalist and presenter, and I've been a Chelsea fan since I was 8 years old.
Some of the mental health challenges I faced, having psychotic episodes that mainly stemmed from trauma responses.
I've struggled a lot with anxiety, with panic attacks in my teens. Anxiety that got so bad it was kind of debilitating and stopped me doing things that I would normally do.
I think it's so important to speak about things beyond football with my community, because a lot of the conversations we have go off the pitch talking about like our mental health, and it also helped me realise that I'm not alone in everything I go through.
So Esther, tell me, how did you start supporting Chelsea?
So I was actually born in Chelsea Westminster Hospital, so I think it was quite inevitable. And my dad was is a huge Chelsea supporter.
Okay. My dad was a Chelsea fan. I grew up down the river in southwest London. My first ever game, and it was that first Mourinho season. It was Chelsea Man United at home. We won 1-0. I think Johnson scored, and he got me a season ticket that season. Have you ever had any mental health challenges?
Yeah, actually, about 3 years ago, my parents split. That split, I think that's when I first really had to sit down and look into my mental health. I wouldn't say I was necessarily depressed or anything, but I started to get like, really bad psychosis. So it was just more so traumas that I'd brushed aside. And obviously going football was like, having that community just took my head away from everything.
For me, my mental health challenges sort of came in my teens and early 20s. My anxiety, like a lot of it linked back to my sexuality, which was something that as a teenager I really wasn't comfortable with. In my head it was like, I play football, I go to Chelsea, I like drinking beers on the weekend. How can I be anything but straight, you know? It wasn't until I started talking about it with some of my family members, I had some therapy, I started seeing a therapist and talking about it in a safe space and sort of exploring my own relationship with my sexuality, that I was able to start sort of turning down the volume on that anxiety. Community around me, a lot of them are Chelsea fans. I do feel like if I was at the pub with them before the game, or I don't just have to talk to them about, you know, what's going on the pitch, what Cole Palmer's up to. I could tell them if, oh, you know what, I'm having a bit of a rough time at the moment.
I started up an organisation when I was 16. I think a big thing for me was creating a community and atmosphere where girls like myself find a place to belong. And one of the biggest things I found was a lot of girls struggle with their mental health, especially when it comes to playing football. And they don't know that about each other until they really sit down and have a conversation. Having a community that allows you to be vulnerable also empowers you, because it makes you realise, you know what, I'm not in it alone, and there's other people that do go through it, and gives you a sense of belonging. If you were to go back to like tell your, say, 16, 18-year-old self one or maybe a few key messages about things you've learned along the journey, what would you say?
I'd probably talk to myself about some of the challenges that I've been through, like anxiety and panic attacks. And I think growing up, I just didn't have a sense of what those things were. Like I didn't even have the language to talk about it. I think mental health's much more in our like conversation now. So younger people, like kids today, have those tools or more of an awareness. I wasn't even aware of it. So I think I would just maybe plant some of those ideas and say, hey, these are things you're going to have to address. But I just want to give myself a hug, really. Be like, you're going to be all right. What about you? If you could go back, what would you say to the younger Esther?
It does get better. Sometimes things get worse before they get better, but I'm a big believer that everything works out for a reason. As you grow and as you get older, things will fall into place and it all makes sense.
Yeah. What do you think other fans can learn from your experiences and your story?
Vulnerability is a strength, not weakness, and authenticity is a superpower.
Like from my experiences, I think fans can learn that there's no one type of football fan, and like whoever you are, there's a space for you.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to mental health, it's always been like a continuous journey. So how do you respond when other people do come to you and like express their own emotions?
So I think just to listen and to share like maybe some of the pain. And I think to do that, sometimes it involves just shutting up and being like, I don't have the answers, and just acknowledging that, wow, that's really tough, like what you're going through, that sounds really difficult. Trying to empathize and, you know, being like, that's crap, I'm sorry, and let's talk about it.
It's really similar to what you said with just listening and checking in on people, even when they're having a really high and they've done something great, because appearance isn't reality, seeing beneath a smile. You
know, sort of bared our souls a little bit. I feel super comfortable with you. And it's funny, like, if you can talk about your problems with a complete stranger, that's pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to have these discussions just to gain an understanding. It's really beautiful to put people like us, like, to share our stories. Even the fact I feel so much lighter makes me realise I had a bit on me before I even started the conversation. So yeah, and I do really appreciate it. Thank you.